There are 3 candidates in running for county executive in the upcoming August election. 2 are pretty familiar names, and I'm here with the 3rd candidate that may not be so familiar to people in Cannon County, but Mr. Tim Powers. And one of the purposes of the video is to allow people the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better.
Yes, sir.
This is kind of like an episode of This Is Your Life without all the guest stars, you know. So give us your biography maybe in 10 minutes or less.
My biography?
That? Yeah.
All right.
We'll start off with, where are you from?
Born and raised in Rutherford County,
okay.
Murfreesboro. Funny thing is, though, my mom and brother were both born in Cannon County because it was cheaper to give birth here, and that's where my conservatism started out. Because my parents always knew the value of $1.
Yeah, now you can't give birth here in Cannon County anymore.
That's true. That's true. Went to Hobgood, Central Middle, and Riverdale High School, MTSU, and I tell you, that's the one thing that I wish I could have attended to was a K through 8 like Auburntown, where we live now, because I think I would have thrived there. That's another subject for another day. Middle schools aren't what they all cut out to be. I've always worked at a grocery store for 5 years during school. As I played baseball and made a little money on the side, and worked in retail, and then went into education, taught school for 4 years, and saw that was a special calling. You've got to have the patience and the right build to be in that classroom, which I enjoyed, but I didn't expect that I'd be teaching math 30 plus students. That's
was this high school or?
The first 2 years was high school, Smyrna High under legendary Bud Rakes.
Oh yeah.
And I helped baseball. Coach Steve, I can't even think of his last name right now, but learned a lot. Then I went to the middle school for 2 years under Don Jernigan, big farmer from Christiana, good guy. And I coached the middle school basketball team for 1 year. Next year, gave that up, helped with middle school baseball.
Gotcha.
So I always try to stay active, but took my math degree, went back, got some business hours, law hours, and went into accounting.
Okay.
And I audited externally. You know, they hire us to come in, look at the books, make sure everything's right, and then internally for 4 years. 4 years I was at a Price CPAs in Nashville. Did payroll, whatever tax the business person wanted us to do, we do.
Right.
And then internal audit at MTSU, which was a learning experience. And then my mom, who was watching my kids, she got sick, so I drew some people say the short straw, but I got to stay home because my wife, she works for Murfreesboro Anesthesia. She made a little more money. Yeah. And I don't know if it was the right decision, but we made it and we've worked through it.
Well, that's good. Yeah. That's good.
And I always find odd-and-end jobs as a stay-at-home dad. When they're in school, like right now I'm at a friend's nursery off of John Bragg. Busy season, I'll help him out. And he knows I got to be back home to pick up the kids at 3.
Right. So, and then also you've been involved in baseball camps, from what I'm understanding.
Taking my kids to them.
Okay.
Yeah, I never got to enjoy that.
Well, you've coached baseball before,
I am.
So.
But I've reached the limit of I know when to get expertise from another one, like Woody Hunt at Cumberland.
Right.
He's a legend.
Yeah.
And whatever he can impart to them, that's something good.
Yeah. And you currently live in Auburntown, correct?
Yes, sir. I've been there for 8 years, and the community is exceptional. That's one of the draws of Cannon County is the communities. And Rutherford used to be like that, and I don't want to be negative, but they've gotten so big, and if you've driven through there, it's not a community anymore. And that's what I respect about Cannon County.
Yeah, usually when I leave for a ball game or something, I've got to go through Murfreesboro. And it takes me almost 30 to 45 minutes to make it to Murfreesboro, through Murfreesboro, to get to get, like if I go Las Casas and hit up DeKalb County, you know, stuff like that. It takes a little bit of time
to do that.
Where it didn't before, you know.
Still growing.
But you and I probably remember the days when we would sit out there, especially around the Avenue and Old Fort Parkway. We remember the days when all that land was land.
And I tell people, it's like if you know, we're on digital phones and you just punch the number. To me, when I drive through Rutherford, it's like going back to the Rotary because they got so many red lights.
Right.
231 was 2-lane. Warrior Drive was 2-lane. No red light right there at Butler.
Right.
It's amazing. And these questions are hard, but I'm sweating not because of the questions, but the AC's out. So if you see me
we're in a place where they didn't get the AC there. Somebody come fix this air conditioning.
But I'm not complaining. I'm thankful for the internet to get out and meet whoever's viewing this. So thank you.
You've gotten your feet wet in politics and government when you became a school board member, and even then, not a lot of people knew your name when you came in. They were like, "Okay, who is this?" You know. Of course, everybody in Auburntown did, but I'm talking about people on the outside of Auburntown in that community. I think one of the biggest attention getters that you ended up with was when you stood up against the majority of the other school board members last year when they were going through the controversy of the director of schools.
Right.
You know, and 5 school board members in all. For those of you that have not kept up with school board, we've got 5 members, and you and one other one were not too happy about the situation, how it was handled, and kind of stood up for what was right. You know, and people saw that, and they were like, "Wow, this guy impressed me." You know. People came away with that, with the concept that you're about doing things the right way and taking a stand against wrong. And you've been doing that all your life.
All my life.
That's how you were brought up.
Yeah,
So.
It's got me in trouble sometimes because you're supposed to be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to anger. But there's a righteous anger, and I'm not saying I'm righteous because we're all sinners saved by grace.
Right.
But there comes a time when you see something that's black and white, and you got to take a stand. Like the situation you had is it was a 2-pronged. One was to get rid of somebody who was highly qualified. You go to meetings in Nashville for the Tennessee School Board Association, and they're bragging on your director.
Right.
And I know, I'm like, yes, she knows everything, does everything right and by the book, and then they try to get rid of her. And then the second prong is how they got rid of her. It's like, okay, you're going to do it.
And the reasons why they got, the underlying reasons as to why they got rid of her.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. But they could have waited until, they could have said, Miss Parker, you're not going to be renewed. So, but they didn't do it that way. They had to do it right then for a reason that I'm not privy to.
Right.
Which is fine. I like to be kept in dark about things that are not good, but they'll come to light.
And your situation, exactly like you said, the situation itself, I mean, what good came out of that as far as the underlying reasons? It all worked itself out in the end as far as to the good of the community, with the exception of how and why she was treated the way she was treated.
Right.
You know,
right. That old saying that the ends don't justify the means.
Right.
The process has to be done right. And just to not correct you, but to add, I got an aunt that lives in Cannon County, and I went to church at First Baptist Woodbury while my wife was at school for anesthesia. So I'm familiar. Fred Swartz and David and Donnie Odom. I'm throwing names out. There's plenty. With Bible study I was invited to. Got to know some good people. So I'm familiar with Cannon County.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, and it borders Rutherford. You know.
Right.
You go back to the history. Cannon was made of part of different counties.
Right.
So, and the geographic, it seems, Auburn and Short Mountain's more like Wilson and DeKalb, but that's just another issue for another day.
Or it could be, Woodbury's the Murfreesboro of Cannon County,
Right.
and Auburntown is kind of like the Smyrna, or the Eagleville, maybe.
It is, but you got that hill. Geographically, that really...
Rockville, Eagleville, there you go.
Yes. I see where you're going on that.
Some of these people would be like, good grief, they talk too much about Rutherford County.
But that one thing you bring up, I mean, I lived in Rutherford County growing up, and
Right.
I was always politically attuned. I mean, weird, because I love politics and sports, and they're similar. And the good things Rutherford's done and bad things, I use that as a learning base for me to see how it applies to Cannon.
Yeah.
Rightfully or wrongfully so, but it does give me a base to learn from, because they've gone through the same things, going through the same that we will or will be in the future.
Right. As you look into county government and how it's run, what are some of the things that you see as weaknesses and some of the things that you might see as strengths?
Let's start with the strengths. I love the accountability in Cannon County, the activity. I was a member of the Rutherford Neighborhood Alliance in Rutherford, and if you need to Google it, look them up, and they hold the feet of Rutherford commissioners to the fire, but there's very few. Here, it's like a big part of Cannon are politically active. If something goes awry, it's known, and accountability is great. And so that's one positive I see in Cannon County, is the accountability, and it's small enough to where you can be accountable. Things get so big, like Nashville, they don't know what's going on. They don't know where the money's going, kind of like our federal government.
Right.
Now, the weakness as I see it, and I see it everywhere, is the civility. Is you can disagree without being mean. I mean, you can put your foot down and just say, I agree to disagree, and let's discuss the topic. I love discussions. I love the back and forth, philosophical. Philosophical doesn't get things done, but it leads you to things that can be done if you work together. And that's why I got into it. And with a 5-member school board, 3-2, you're pretty much stuck. But with a 10-person, you can work, persuade, get things moving in the right direction. Plus, you got a courthouse full of people who are very good at their jobs that want things done honestly, transparently, and moving in the right direction. And that's another positive. I always like to come back to positive, but you always got to list negatives and positives because you want to improve.
Yeah. On the weaknesses of the county, how do you think, if you get elected as county executive, how do you see you stepping into and solving some of the weaknesses and making them strengths?
Communication, open door, and I know everybody says that, but I do listen. I like to listen to other people's opinions, even though I don't agree with them.
Right.
Because you learn. They talk about the sounding board or the sounding room. You don't want people to tell you the same things that you agree with. You're not learning or moving forward. Just like, for example, with the school system. The grammar schools, and can you afford 6 of them? And it's coming to a point where that discussion it's getting pretty close, because you can't have a teacher-pupil ratio less than 10 to 1. It's not fair to the other schools and not fair to the taxpayers. So
right.
I'm pro-grammar, K through 8. I just love it. It's a community, and that's the first thing they do in the big counties is you get a middle school and they separate you into mini schools because they want community. So communication. I can be persuaded, but there's some things, and like people know, my basis is the Bible, and my rearing is you put God first, your family second, your work, and then playtime. And
right.
I won't budge on what I think to be ethically, morally, even though it might be legally. If it crosses that line for me in the other direction, I won't go.
Right. And hopefully, if you become the county executive, that people will keep that communication with you and use that. I mean, I know you fairly well, and I think that you're a good communicator yourself. And it's just, hopefully these other people will learn you and do that and communicate with you if their problems or situations might concern. Transparency, I know, is a big issue. A lot of people sitting out there going, well, the government's not transparent. And a lot of that, once again, is due to communication.
It is.
And some of it is not necessarily on the government side of things, it's the people's side of things. They're afraid to go and ask those questions because those questions have been hammered before from people who maybe not as civil as they would be.
That's true. And the unknown. I used to be in that boat. I didn't want to go to the courthouse or sit through a budget meeting or go to a workshop at a board, but you learn a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And they can't hide things at those places. They got to speak freely. Now, government does hide stuff, and it's not just Cannon. If you've kept up in Rutherford County, one of the hot topics is the notices on delinquent taxes on property. And it's not the poor man, it's the rich man getting away with it, and you got a attorney of the county trying to hide it.
Right.
So we're not the only ones. I won't say an appearance of no transparency. Over there, they are actually hiding stuff.
Right.
I mean, you've got the green belt over there, which it's intent. If you got a farm, 15 acres, it's cows, but you got developers that are saying it's in the green belt when they know they're going to subdivide it in 5 years, and so one of the tax assessors put a stop to it, and so quietly, after so many years, it's written off, and they don't have to pay their delinquent taxes. So there are some things being hidden government, and we just got to stay on top of it. Now, would I hide that? I don't work that way,
right?
And I can't stand people that do.
I
can tolerate them. I love them, but they got to meet consequences. If it's jail, it's jail. Just like up at federal. There's nobody above the law, and that's going to destroy our country if you treat people one way and other people the other.
Right, and we're seeing it now. We're seeing it now.
We're seeing it with the FBI, Hillary Clinton, and they say her name, and you say, ooh. But if they do wrong, and on the Republican side also, if they do wrong, they should be treated just like anybody else.
Right, exactly. one of the items that you had discussed in a interview that I think was published when you wrote it out and everything was your view on county trash in the solid waste department. Some have sided with one of your opponents that were not happy to hear your viewpoint, although I myself thought it was kind of funny because they were okay with one of their buddies that made a recommendation been a couple of years ago, when all the landfill discussion got started. One of their buddies made a recommendation in Rutherford County at a meeting. Says, hey, why don't you go build you a landfill over here in, I think it was Locks Creek Road is where they put it at. And they were scheduled to come out and take a look at it. And all of a sudden the county commission, county executive Mike Gannon, introduced a resolution that said, hey, wait a minute, before a landfill comes in, we need full Cannon County Commission approval.
Right.
And so they got that passed and everything, and you didn't hear much more talk about that landfill after that. But, you basically have stated, and I know you've said before, that every county should be ultimately responsible for their own solid waste.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about your viewpoint on that.
Right, and I like the way that they made that stand to get the commission involved, because it has to be a public-private issue. Because here again, I'm learning from Rutherford County, it was a backdoor deal, and I can name the county executive, but I won't name her name. But they went with BFI Middle Point, totally private. Thus, they could bring in the thermal waste from Nashville, radioactive waste from wherever, national waste. We don't want that, and if it's done, it's got to be done right. And a private, I know they want to make money, but they can't do it at the expense of the people that live in the county like they did Rutherford. You can smell that all over half the county now because it wasn't done right. But it's going to close, so what are we going to do? Right. We can't afford what we're doing almost right now, taking it to Middle Point. What are we going to do when it's 2 or 3 counties away and you got more travel costs? So they need to start looking into it, and the time frame keeps closing. They keep saying 5 to 8 years. Now it's 3 to 4 years, because the more people that move into Rutherford, the more trash is going to be built up. Yeah. So that we need to talk about it now before it's going to be upon us. So why not discuss the issue now? Now, do I know everything about it? No, but I went to the courthouse and listened to them talk. They talked about ideas like working with counties grouped together, and that'd be excellent. Because, we might not have the resources of a Rutherford, but Rutherford, Bedford, Wilson, got us all together, we can come up with a solution. And that's what it's about. It's not about incinerating, and not to step on anybody's toes, trash. If that was a feasible thing, they'd already be doing it.
Yeah, everybody would be
doing it. Yeah. But it's not.
Well, I mean, you can do it, but it's not the ultimate, right. Not the ultimate solution. No. Small area like Woodbury, for instance, they could get away with it. But overall in the county, no, not too big.
And the cost
right.
But then again, you'd have to put it. And then if it did get passed, and whoever's in the executive spot, they're going to have to face this issue with the trash. But I wouldn't want this to be the dumping ground for the counties, forever.
Right.
It's got to be. We're going to get it started with the money that we're going to charge them to bring it in, get it established. And then they got to be weaned off, and it's our trash. It's our baby.
Yeah.
You just can't take everybody's trash like Rutherford did. You end up like Rutherford.
Right, exactly. What are some of the things that you're doing nowadays to get your name out there in the communities?
Well, like this Saturday, I went to the Bradyville Church of Christ and met some good people there and discussed topics. I'm always willing to take a phone call. My number's in the book. I love talking one-on-one. I'm not a great orator in front of a bunch of people unless I have a prepared speech. But I love to talk one-on-one or in groups of people. The emergency management system's got meetings coming up. I'm going to try to attend those. Other than that, you can always find me at a ballpark or somewhere talking sports or politics.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sometimes both. Probably
sometimes
many times
right.
both. Yeah.
Right.
But anything else that you'd like to add?
Did
you have a speech prepared already? Or?
I did not.
Okay.
Because I knew you were a good interview.
I knew you had notes. I see your notes.
I did, in case you asked some things that might stump me, because I'm attuned to what's on my plate at a time.
Right.
Just like budget time. I'm the general purpose budget for the school. I'm in tune with it. Other things you might ask me, I might have to go to. The one thing I want to say is good things are happening in Cannon. I heard something on Fox Business News on the way over here. You can tax internet sales now. So if somebody, hopefully the Tennessee Assembly will pick that up, and somebody from Cannon buy a table from Wayfair, hey, we're going to get Tennessee sales tax, and hopefully the state legislature will do something to give more of that money to the local people, because they've been done without it for years. Now we're going to get a piece of it. Give more to the counties that don't have a Walmart, that don't have a physical site, internet sales. Let us keep some of that money local. So that's good. Things are down the road. The budgets sounds like it's getting better at the county. I hate that, having to borrow before you even start. We got to get out of that, and they know it. See, that's the thing.
Well, that's the plan.
That's the plan.
And the plan was implemented. I guess this is the third year into it. So, stick with the plan.
That's right.
You got a bunch of people that are sitting out there and they're griping about the county government and it's not transparent enough and they're not going to come up with the money. But you're already starting to see it year after year, the growth in that general fund where the state wants us to be.
That's right.
And you have to have that.
You got to. And instead of jumping on their backs, hey, pick them up and carry them to the finish line. That's what we're in it together. And most people in Cannon are. So
that finish line is there. I mean, if you stay the course, you'll get there.
You're right. And another thing I was going to bring up, might not ask, but just like the wheel tax, we're collecting a lot of money on wheel tax. But I would like to see whatever commissioner and executives in place, when the school's debt gets paid off, do what you promised the people and cut that fee. When I lived in Rutherford, they said once Oakland and Riverdale were finished paid off, we're going to cut the wheel tax. They never did it. And that's people lose confidence in your government.
Right.
Now, once the government gets their promise settled with the people, then say, hey, people, we met our word. Can we take it $10, $20 here? And the people will say yes. Right now, the people are scared of government because they don't follow their word.
Well, then we take a look at that particular situation to talk about. Whenever they had to take the wheel tax off, and they didn't, they had to build more schools.
They did, but they should have went back to the people.
Yeah.
And said, instead of doing it on their own, after they had told the people they were going to take it off. See,
I think another thing about that is if they go back to the people, they're probably scared. Okay, we took the $10 or $20 wheel tax off. These people aren't going to let us put it back up. Yeah. So how are we going to be able to afford the school?
Live within your means, impact fees, development fees. I'm talking Rutherford because it grew too fast. But that's what runs that county. You got to have people that are objective to run a place. So you have you hit all people the same and not pick winners and losers. I know that's used a lot, but you can see it everywhere. You get winners, just like that. Why did it take the Supreme Court to rule on taxing the internet? How long has the internet been in existence?
Yeah, really.
These cells have been going across these lines. Who's it hurt? Your mom and pop building that can't,
Right.
And it finally took the Supreme Court to step in because, unfortunately, our politicians in Washington are bought and paid for, and Amazon is going to hurt them, but they need to pay their sales tax and quit having advantage over these buildings that are in place.
Right, exactly. Well, we appreciate the time, and we'll get this up on the internet to where a lot of people can take a look at this. And
thank you for the questions, and again, I'm in the phone book. I'm available. I'm a introvert, but this pushes me outside my comfort zone. And that's what I like. I like to when I play ball, I always like to play with somebody that's going to beat me. That's the only way you get better. Yeah. I like to step out into situations just like school board, and I was on the industrial development board before then.
Yep.
And I told the people that asked me to run, I don't know if I'm qualified, but if somebody asks you to run and you got a little inkling and you push, do it, study, and you're truthful, you'll be okay. And that's for every citizen in Cannon. It just takes 25 signatures. Don't be afraid. You can do it.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. And once again, Tim Powers, running for Cannon County Executive.
Thank you, Mr. Reedy.